All right, everybody, welcome to the Where's Your Next Vlogcast. We are coming to you live. Um, Earlier today, we had a guest. Her name was Susanna Fraser, but she has to get more HR approval to go on any kind of show where she's talking about her business or what she's doing. So, unfortunately, she had to cancel. But someone I've been wanting to get on for a while, and his name is Cameron Colovich. And Cameron, introduce yourself. We have a great topic for today, but introduce
Yeah, for
yourself first,
sure.
and we'll get into it.
You got it. Yeah, my name's Cameron. I'm a mortgage loan officer, mortgage broker with Luneta Home Loans. We're based out of South Jordan, Utah, but licensed in a bunch of states. Me personally, I have 7 different states that I can lend in. So, yeah, I'm excited. Also a firefighter. So I do both of those things. It's pretty
Yeah,
fun.
you're a volunteer firefighter, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
pretty cool. So, well, what I wanted to do today is have you come on and talk about the housing market, give some advice to my listeners about, what it means to buy that first home, steps you can take,
Sure.
and insights on that. I know it's an interesting market. Also, if they wanted to invest in real estate, what steps could they take? Get a you know
Yeah,
a
absolutely.
first home or a second home.
Yeah, so let's dive into that first. Talking about like first home buyers. Um, Before you can invest in real estate, you probably need to invest in yourself by getting your own first home. So, the first thing that you should do is talk to a lender like myself. And if you have one that you trust, someone that you know, something like that, more power to you. Go talk to them. Our job is to look through your finances, your credit, and make sure that you are financially stable enough as far as paper goes to qualify for a home. And the way that we do that is we look at your income, make sure that it's stable and that it has a high likely chance of continuing, but also that you have a good history of income too. If you don't have a good history of income, underwriters they don't like to approve those loans because it's a little bit more risky. So that's something that we look at is to make sure that when we send this file to underwriters, that underwriters will just say, "That's great, you're good to go." So that's your first step if you want to buy a home is contact a lender and make sure that you have what it's going to take to purchase the home first of all. The second thing that you need to make sure you do is kind of look inward and make sure that you'll be able to afford those monthly payments that we tell you that that house is going to cost. Because the things that we look at are like your auto loans or a credit card payment or anything that shows up on your credit report. The things that we don't see are your gas bill that you'll acquire, your food that you have to buy, your gas for your vehicles. Like those are expenses that we don't calculate into um, your debt to income. So you need to make sure that you're looking inward after we say, here's all that jazz that you can do, but make sure that it still fits in your budget. Because at the end of the day, it's your mortgage, it's your life, and we're just here to support you in that. To answer your next question about investing, now you can go about that a couple different ways. Investing is a little bit trickier in some ways. They like you to have some skin in the game as far as down payments go. So investments, some actually just rolled it back that you can get like a 2 to 4 place investment property, which means like you can buy a duplex or a 4 place apartment for 5% down. But the stipulation is you have to be occupying one of those properties, like
Mm.
one of those units. So if you wanted to buy a 4 unit place for 5% down, you would just have to occupy one of those and rent out the other 3. So that's one of the things that you could do, makes it kind of easy to jump in and do that. Otherwise, you're kind of looking at like a 10, 15, 20% down payment for investment properties.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But if you already have your home, one thing you can do is pull some equity out of your house, use that to um, make as that down payment. And then there's also loans out there called DSCR loans that just look at the income that rental would bring in to help you qualify, meaning you wouldn't have to show your own income We would just look at the income from that to see if it would qualify as a rental property.
So should people wait to invest right now, or even refinance? Is the climate still where it's high, or is it a good time to get into? Is it still a good time to get into first time home buying?
So the thing with that is the right time to buy is when you're ready to buy. Interest rates could be at 14%. And if you can afford a 14% interest rate with your house payment, more power to you, go for it. Those interest rates don't stay high and they don't stay low. They're always fluctuating, like day to day. That's part of my job, is to look at interest rates and to see them fluctuating from day to day, hour by hour. Sometimes they're fluctuating so much. So it's super important to just know your own limitations. So if you wanted to invest in more properties today, more power to you. If you can afford it, do it. I'll tell you, the market is easier to buy right now than it probably will be in 6 months when interest rates do go down, because more buyers will enter the market. And it'll be more competitive, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
as far as refinances go, yeah, you might have a 2%, 3% because you refinanced in 2020 or 2021. But if you're in a bunch of credit card debt, or like you kind of just piled up a lot of debt, which a lot of us have. I mean, I think the national credit card debt is like in the trillions right now.
Yep.
So like that's astronomical. It's the highest it's ever been. So if you're just struggling, and you're paying, for instance, back in January, I did a refinance for someone that they had a 2.25% interest rate, and we put them up to a 7% interest rate. But they ended up cash flowing over $1,000 every month, because we paid off all those debts. That instead of paying $5,000 a month for their house plus all those credit cards, now they're just paying $4,000 a month for the house, and get another $1,000 in their pocket that they normally would be throwing to credit card bills. So there is still a place for refinances, but it has to make sense, right? We don't want to take you out of a 2% or a 3% interest rate if we don't have to. So, and that's part of my job, is to look at those things and help you weigh your options, but ultimately it's still your decision.
And you really love it. How many people have you helped?
I'm not sure, honestly. I haven't really kept a tally. I've only been doing it for about 2 years. I started doing this in 2022, and it's been amazing. It's been so rewarding, honestly. And the way that I look at it is, as a firefighter, I get to help people in kind of their worst times of needs. When people call 911, it's not because they're having a good day.
Right.
Totally, right? I mean, I don't think most people would call 911 just to chat or have a good day. Some people do, honestly. Some people, you get the older generation that just needs some company. It happens. But those are great people too. But as far as like these mortgage loans, I kind of look at it the same way, that like if you're coming for a mortgage to refinance, sometimes it's because it's your last option. Maybe you're so far in debt that you just need help crawling out, and the equity in your home is how you do it. I have experienced that myself firsthand. I've had to refinance my house to pay off debts, and just felt the piano lifted off my back. So being able to help people in that manner is super rewarding. Be able to help first-time home buyers that want to buy a house, super rewarding. I'd like to backtrack a little bit.
Yeah, please.
When we were talking about first-time home buyers, I didn't mention much about down payments, and I think that's probably the biggest fear. Everyone has that little voice saying, "Hey, you got to have 20% down to buy your house." That is not true. 20% down, all that does for you is eliminates the private mortgage insurance if you do a conventional loan. If you don't do a conventional loan and you do a FHA loan, you still have that PMI, or private mortgage insurance, the entire life of the loan if you have an FHA loan, no matter what. So conventional will actually allow you to buy a house as a first-time home buyer with 3% down. Wow. FHA allows you to buy a house at 3.5% down. If you are a veteran and are able to use your VA benefits, you can purchase a house with 0% down as long as your entitlement allows. And same with USDA. USDA The U.S. Department of Agriculture, they have their program to help people purchase a home too. Same with the FHA. FHA is the Federal Housing Administration. But USDA, that one's kind of harder to qualify for right now because some of their guidelines are pretty rough. And with where the interest rates are, it's hard for people to qualify for USDA loans. But it's still an option for those that can.
So. Well, and so tell us about your career as a mortgage loan officer, and you, when we were talking, it sounded that you could be lucrative, like you could make a pretty good living off of it.
Yeah, absolutely. The way that our pay structure works is it's all based on commission. So if I'm actively working and actively helping people with their loans, I'm getting paid. If I decide I don't want to get paid this month for whatever reason, I don't have to work. I could go the whole week and not do anything. I could go the whole month and not do anything. I don't recommend that, especially if it's how you make your living, right? But for most places, they're going to charge a certain percentage depending on what it is. It's going to probably be anywhere, like your company is going to charge your brokerage or your retail shop or your bank or whatever. They charge a percentage for that commission, and then it all rolls down. You have the back end stuff that has to get paid, and then your loan officer will get paid. So for me, I take a 1% commission of the loan amount. So say the commission or the loan amount is $500,000, my commission would be a $5,000 check.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Take taxes out of it, all that kind of stuff. The government puts their hand in everything, as we know, so I don't get the whole $5,000. But I mean, if you're closing 3, 4, 5 loans a month at that rate, that's a pretty good check for that.
Yeah, that's really good. So, wow. And you've done this for 2 years. How did you get into it? Did you have a friend that worked at Luneta? Or?
I did. Okay. He wasn't at Luneta at the time. He was with a different a retail shop, and then jumped into a different brokerage world when we were talking about it. So he did a couple of my refinances and helped me out in some different spots. I owed my parents some money and then paid off other stuff too. So I did all that stuff, and I just realized like the benefit that I received, I wanted to give that to other people. And then obviously the money is good too if you're doing it right. So he showed me the ropes. He showed me what I needed to do to get licensed, and off we went. So to get licensed as a loan officer, you have to do a 20-hour course through the federal rules and regulations. And then each state has their own regulations, I guess. And I think Utah was like another 8 hours. So in total, it was only about 28 hours to get licensed for the state of Utah.
And what's the cost?
I think I was into it about $1,000.
Wow, so, that's not bad. So
it's not crazy bad.
But your first real loan that you get could pay that off pretty quickly.
Absolutely, the ROI in this business is tremendous. Like,
yeah, that's amazing.
You gotta really look at that. For those that don't know what ROI is, it's return on investment, right?
Yep.
And you got to look at yourself as an investment. You need to invest in yourself. So the investment of maybe $1,000 to get my license, but being able to turn around and do a $400,000 loan or a $500,000 loan, like that makes it back pretty quick. So. Yeah. But there is a lot of expenses that do come into play. I mean, we have different softwares that we pay for every month. And then just, there's a bunch of different things so when I say I got $5,000, it's not just I get $5,000 to play with, right? I have other expenses that I have to pay out and things like that monthly, obviously.
So let's see. So are you 1099 then? Is that?
No, I'm actually W-2. Which
are you?
Yep.
Wow. So do you get a small stipend or a salary from them?
Nope. It's all commissioned still as a W-2 employee.
Okay. Interesting.
So yeah, it is pretty interesting, and I'm happy about that. I don't think I'd enjoy being a 1099 where I have to watch my taxes and everything like that.
That's nice because they take out your taxes for you. But
yeah.
You're still an employee, but you're not getting a salary or anything. So
right.
How many hours do you put into it usually?
Since I'm a full-time fireman right now as well, I'm probably putting more like a part-time job type thing into my mortgage career. But I would say I'm putting 20, 25 hours into it every week.
Do you get paid as a fireman too?
Yeah. So not where I'm volunteer, but I am a full-time fireman at a different department here locally as well. So
that's where you started originally. You went into firefighting to start your career, right? And then you pulled in this as a side. That's really cool. And so I love that's another example of side income, quote unquote.
Oh yeah.
So on this channel I've talked a few times about getting a second income stream. Like my story, right? I was a recruiter. I am still a recruiter trying to find the day job, but in between roles, but I'm doing the gig economy stuff to make ends meet right now. So
from what I can tell, you're killing it. I mean, all the posts you have, like that stuff you're doing is awesome.
Yeah, and I work at Domino's on the side hustle too. So it's amazing what you can do. I think what I love about your story, and this is why this is so cool, you have a lot of knowledge about managing your finances. Let me ask you this question: Do you have any investments that you do as well on the side besides your mortgage and do you have any other side hustles that you do?
So side hustles, yes. Investments, not yet. I do plan on it. I mean, here in my own house, I rent my basement apartment. I have a basement apartment that I rent, so you can kind of count that as an investment, I guess, but it's still under my own roof. So I don't own any more doors, is what they like to call it in the real estate world, right?
Yeah.
So I don't own any more doors than my own personal house. As far as side businesses go, I am also an arborist. I'm not a licensed arborist, but I am an arborist.
That's cool.
So I trim trees. I know all the ropes about that. I also do some handyman work here and there. So I have a lot of background knowledge in like plumbing, electrical, drywalling, like the whole 9 yards, right?
Yeah.
So
are you on any of the there's a couple of places that you can go, like Angie's List as an example.
Right.
Do you utilize any of those websites to do any of your stuff?
No, the only thing that I necessarily do if I'm looking for like tree work or business that way is just Facebook or friends and referrals type stuff. And that's kind of the same way that your mortgage lending works too, is like you got to treat it as it's your own business. Like it is Cameron Colovich Home Loans LLC. Like it is my business, even though I work for a brokerage. It is my business. Because if I'm not getting those loans, I'm not getting paid, right? So I run specifically by referrals, by my own marketing. I have to do all of that stuff myself, which is social media has come in tremendously.
And you're good at that. And so
I try to
what's really cool, what I think is cool, and I think this is great for so the reason I bring guests like you on is the diversity of points of view. And this is why this channel is all about living your best life. And that's what Where's Your Next is all about. But what I love about this and the advice you're giving today is tell us about how you went to the Tooele, what is it called? It's the Chamber of Commerce. And you went to a Chamber of Commerce event. I think it was for real estate, right?
Okay.
And I think you got some leads from there. So tell us about how you utilize your different channels to market your business.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't think it was the Tooele Chamber of Commerce because I don't think I've ever done anything with them. But
there was something out here, though, right?
Oh yeah. I do go to different real estate brokerage offices.
Yeah, that's it.
Here in Tooele, you have like Wise Choice Realty, you have Premier Real Estate, you have Sunkey Real Estate, and there's several others, Equity and Exit, and like you just have them all, like right. So I try to get into those places as frequently as I can. I'm not super great at it, and I need to do better. That's one way to build business and relationships is to build those referral partners with realtors who are dealing with people buying houses every single day so that they trust you and bring those buyers to you so that you can help them and you just build a good relationship with them. So that's kind of the
challenge.
Oh, it's so hard. It's so difficult because you have so many real estate agents, and then you have so many lenders, and we're all kind of competing for the same people, especially here in Little Twila County. I
Right.
don't venture out a whole lot into Salt Lake. I try to stay as local as I can because I feel like having a local voice. I've grown up here in Twila. I've lived here in Twila basically my entire life, and I like seeing Twila flourish. I like seeing it grow.
And it is growing.
It's huge. It is growing. It's crazy fast. I want to
keep building
say
all this new construction out here.
Oh my gosh, there's
so the real estate opportunities there.
Yeah, so much opportunity, but it's definitely really hard to become that lender that everyone trusts, right? I mean, there's just so many lenders, really great lenders, and really great real estate agents.
And there's some bad ones too. How do you tell a bad one from a good one?
Absolutely. There's always bad and there's always good.
How do you tell the bad ones from the good ones, right? In your opinion?
Good question. If you talk to any real estate agent or you talk to any lender, their biggest points are communication. If you don't have communication with your buyers or with your partners, they're probably bad because you need to have communication in this business. There's so many turning points in when you're buying a house, whether it's through ordering your inspections, your appraisals, and talking to underwriters and getting your processors to work. There's just so many moving parts that if you don't have good communication, things fall apart.
So what's a typical process? So if someone wants to buy a first-time home, you know, you go, you look at the home, you kind of, look at it, and then you put a bid out on the house. Then it goes into escrow, and then there's steps that kind of take place from there. What does that process look like, and what to expect as a new home buyer if you're going through it?
As I stated previously, your first step should be either speaking with a realtor first and then going directly to a lender, or talking to a lender first and then going to a realtor. Either way, that lender needs to be one or two on that list. Because you need to know what you're pre-approved for so that you're not looking in a budget range that's out of your budget, or you're not looking in under your budget because you want to be able to go higher. Like, we will set that range for you to say, this is what your finances can handle. Here's your range. You have between this amount and this amount that I recommend you looking at. Now, if you go anything below your high amount, so be it. But do not go over this high amount because you won't be approved for that loan. And that's critical, right? I mean, if you go and put an offer in on a house and you can't get approved for that loan, it makes everybody in that transaction look bad. It makes the lender look bad. It makes the real estate agent look bad. It makes your title company look bad. Everyone just looks bad. And unfortunately, that has happened with a couple of my deals. Like, they don't always go great. Some just.
But you learned from them, and they think
you learn.
Was that early on for you when you were trying to learn and get the hang of it?
I just had one recently that fell apart. But sometimes it's my fault. Sometimes it's not my fault. Sometimes it's completely out of our control, and you just kind of gotta learn to roll with the punches, for sure.
What do you do if you've been in this business, but you've learned a lot, obviously, and it's great. It's great talking to you about it because I know how passionate you are about this, and what I really love is that you really want to help people, and I think that's such a wonderful trait. And I think that the key to stand out from, to find that real estate person, there's local lenders like that you have that are local, and then there's your credit unions that could help you with that loan. There's other lenders who are like Quicken Loans and some of the bigger shops, right? But what's the advantages of each versus a local shop or, say, a credit union?
Sure.
What are some of the differences?
Based on that, there's going to be kind of three different avenues that you can take. You can take a local credit union, and a credit union can be great for some things. I will always recommend a credit union if you're going for like an auto loan or a recreational loan for like an RV or a boat or four-wheelers or whatever, or personal loans. A credit union will most likely have the best rates when it comes to auto loans, recreational loans, personal loans, that kind of stuff.
Or maybe a second mortgage, possibly too.
Possibly. The HELOC, they could be good for HELOCs. Now, I'll say.
What's the HELOC? Talk about that.
Yeah, I will.
Why would you want to? Why wouldn't you?
For sure. So before I get to that's kind of where the credit unions stand out, and it's because that they have credit unions are privately owned, right? I mean,
Right.
they're privately owned by the people that invest
Mhm.
in the credit unions. If
Right.
you have an account at Mountain America Credit Union, you're technically like a shareholder, right? I mean, they use your money, you use their money, all back and forth. So if they have the capital behind them, they can offer really good rates. They can kind of
Okay.
control their own pricing. A bank, or let's talk about big banks, and then as well as like Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage and like those really, really big ones that you see all over the place. Those are like your retail shops. They have their in-house lending, their in-house processing, all that kind of stuff. But their fees are higher, and you'll find that they have higher rates also because they bake all of their back-end product, all of their back-end fees into the rate.
Mm.
So it makes it look like you're not paying a lot of fees, but you're just paying
It's higher. It's going to be a higher rate.
interest. Right. Or you're having to pay more discount points for a lower interest rate. And we can talk
Right.
about that later. Whereas a broker, which is what I am, a broker, my shop in particularly, not all shops do this. We don't charge an underwriting fee. We don't charge a processing fee because we do have our own in-house processors. So we worry about that. 1 second. I have to check that email that just came through for a client. Sorry.
No, and while you're doing that, what I'm basically seeing, and what I love about what you're saying is, a local broker could be really good at saving you some fees, and they may know the local market a little bit better than say your big giant shops,
Absolutely.
right? And
And you'll
those
get
are
more
also the ones that
personalized.
respond when you go to those interesting websites, and then you put in your information to get, a quote,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah,
they
yeah,
send you, then they call you within a minute.
Yes.
I've
Yep.
never seen anything like it.
And you'll get a different loan officer that calls you almost every time, right?
Yeah.
Because they kind of just, these big banks, they'll get those leads. When you put in your information, they get that lead and they just send it to the next one in line. And then they send it to the next one in line, next one in line. Whereas mine, that's not the way it is. If you click on my stuff, you come directly to me. And hopefully we build a relationship through the first process that the next times you come back to me because I already know your situation.
Yeah.
You don't have to re-explain yourself to people. You don't have to do all that kind of stuff.
There's a repeat business clientele relationship that could come from that, and
yeah, and
that could be very valuable in the future.
That's a really big thing with brokers is
the trust factor. That's a big one.
You're able to build a relationship with your broker, with the person that it's like if you go and buy insurance through a brokerage, you're dealing with that one person, and they might.
What I love about you too is that, and this is why this is such an example of why you want to screen your lenders as well. It's a process of figuring out, how. I mean, buying a home is such a big deal, and in refinancing a home is such a big deal. So this topic of personal finances and getting your debts kind of consolidated, that's another thing, is if someone can have your back to help you do this kind of thing. What I love about you is you've always given great advice, and you're always willing to help. And I think that's such a great thing. And having that relationship, if you know someone, and that's why, if your real estate broker, real estate person is recommending a good lender, trust them because they've vetted that thoroughly.
Absolutely.
That's another side of the coin.
They've probably done several transactions with that person, or they've at least know the type of person that they are, right? I mean, there's some people out there that are just out there to make money. So they are going to do everything that they can to make that money and to get that commission. And I don't think that's a great way of doing business, because then you just kind of end up looking at people as another dollar sign instead of as a person.
Yeah.
For me, I will do my very best on your loan, but if you come to me and say, hey, I've been shopping rates and this person can give me a better rate and all this kind of stuff, I'll be like, that's awesome. Like, I thought I could get it there, but I can't this time. So go with them. And then next time when you're ready to either refinance or purchase another home, give me another shot and let me see if I can do that for you.
Yeah.
So like, I'm not the type of person that is going to nickel and dime you. I'm not going to be the person that just looks at you as a dollar sign. That's not who I am. And I tell people all the time, like, as a lender, you can go to James down the road as a lender. You can go to Cindy, who's a lender, and we can all probably do the same loan for you. It all just depends on the type of experience you want. And that's what I try to do, is build an experience with my clients that is above anybody else's. Because anybody can do the loan, but hopefully the experience that we have together during the loan process is easy, it's fluid, and it's non-stressful, hopefully.
So what's been your favorite loan to do so far? What's your favorite story? Do you have one that kind of stands out that you've loved?
I mean, every loan that I've done, I have a little something, a little piece that I've taken from it, right? But I don't know if I could share a whole lot about like one particular loan that just stands out. I will say every loan is different. None of them have been remotely the same. They've all taught me something different through this process, and it's been a wild ride for sure. But like the ones that stand out the most probably are the first time home buyers that they come to you and they have been denied by 3 or 4 other lenders, and they're like, we just want to buy a home. We don't understand what we need to do. Can you put us on at least a roadmap to like get to this point? And within the next couple of months, they're purchasing a house, and it's super.
And then they're happy, and
they're happy, and you get to see that. It's amazing.
It's so fun. I love your social posts when I get to see that, and you've highlighted someone, and they're really you can see the smiles. They're so big.
Yeah.
And I loved the one where you had the keys, like you had the people with the keys that came in the office, and they were standing by the Luneta home sign, and it was just really cool. And I remember that posting and then you just had a big smile on your face. You were so happy for that couple.
It's great to see those people achieve their dreams for sure.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's still the American dream, is owning your own home and being successful.
Yeah.
And part of being successful is getting your own house.
Tell us more about what it's been like being a fireman. What has been what started your journey there? What got you into that? And
so that was an interesting ride, an interesting journey to get to that point for sure. I had no desire, no inclination that I could even be a fireman growing up. I thought it was something like, you got to go to college, you got to get these degrees, and I am not a college guy. I do not like school. It's not super fun. I just don't enjoy it. But then my brother, and I had an uncle who was a full-time fireman, but also a volunteer here in Twilla. Mm-hmm. I have and several cousins that have been volunteers here in Twilla as well. But then my brother also became a volunteer here in Twilla, and I was like, okay, wait a minute, that's pretty cool. Put my application in to become a volunteer fireman out here in Twilla, and they accepted the application and brought me onto the department. Gave me all the gear, the bunker gear, the stuff we use to go inside structure fires and all that kind of stuff, and said, here you go, good luck, type thing. And then just it's kind of history from there. I was working as the head custodian at Twilla High School at the time, and ended up going to all these different classes, getting all my different certificates for firefighting, and decided that was just the career path I wanted to take.
And weren't you part of, so a few years ago, I think I remember this, there was that big fire that happened in the field just somewhere down that way. But were you part of that situation when that happened?
Is that when it caught the whole trailer park on fire?
Yep.
So that was a couple of years before I got there. That was back in 2016. So I didn't join the fire department until 2020. But it is still a big talk of the department of how what strategies were taken, what could have been better, what went well. It's used a lot as far as training topics to make sure that we can help minimize the damage that happens on incidents like that.
Yeah. Well, so a lot of people don't know Tooele County like we do, right? So let me give a kind of a point of view that'll help um,
Sure.
share the perspective of why I think Cameron loves this fire department like he does. It's so if you look at our city, it's kind of a triangle. So if you go, you've got three major communities within about 10 miles. Okay, so there's well about four. So there's four major communities, but one is Tooele, which is 30,000. Then you have Erda as you go up north, and it looks like a big triangle. So you've got Erda that goes up the 36 along the mountain, which leads up into the corridor, which leads into Salt Lake. You come to Stansbury Park, which is in the north, and then you go to the west, and then you've got Grantsville. Have you worked in any of those cities?
I have done some mutual aid out in Stockton and down in Stansbury. A little bit of, I don't know if we've been called for mutual aid down in Grantsville or not that I can recall, but yeah, we're on the docket to help all of those neighboring agencies if
Hmm.
they call and ask.
And have you had a pretty big fire that you've had to deal with some at some
Oh,
point?
I mean, every every fire is different. They're all big, technically to me. I love them. They just kind of get the juices flowing. Um, like any structure fire is going to be what I turn to, and I love them. I love when and this sounds super bad and like terrible, and I'm sorry for the individuals that are affected by structure fires, but as a fireman, we love them. Like it's just what we love when the tones for the structure fire goes off. We just get all amped up, and it's great.
Well,
Obviously,
you're
it's not
getting to
great
put
for
them
the
out.
individual.
You're saving people's homes and their lives,
Right. So
their
obviously,
livelihood,
it's
and all
not
that
great
stuff. That's what
for
you
the
guys do.
people that are dealing with it in the long run, right? But yeah, so I can't. I mean, it's hard to pinpoint any particular one. Again,
Well, what have you learned about the community and this amazing community we're in? I mean, what have been some of the fun things that you've gotten to see and just be part of?
yeah. You know what's really crazy is a city of our size. There is no other department in Utah that is the city of our size that is still all volunteer, which means
Wow.
everybody that responds to a fire inside Tooele city limits is a volunteer firefighter. They have other full-time jobs. Um, they have
Truly
other
remarkable.
obligations. They have families, and it doesn't matter what time of the day it is. You are going to get people that just drop everything they're doing and they're going to come running because they love the community.
Which is so
Talking
awesome. It's so neat.
talking to the mayor, Debbie Wynn, she's been super supportive of our department, but she speaks very highly of our department because of that very thing. Is the guys and the gals, because we do have some several females on our department now, which is pretty cool. That just happened not too long ago. But the guys and gals on our department, they just love our city. They drop everything they're doing to run to the aid of anybody that is in our city limits. Um, and we've also seen like there's been some big fires that we'll see the community kind of surround and help, and they'll bring drinks, food. They'll bring things to help us because most of the time when you're on a fire, it's not just a quick 30 minutes to an hour, you're out. Like there's been times we've been on fires for 9, 10, 11 hours to get
Wow.
it completely taken care of so that we can go home. So like it is not a short process. And to think about that, you have all these volunteer people that just left their jobs for 9, 10, 11 hours. So not only do we have to give credit to those people that drop everything they're doing, but also to the employers that allow them to leave. Right?
Which I think is amazing.
We have several employers within the county that are like, yeah, go for it.
And they're probably in the military too. Some of them probably do military stuff on the side.
Yeah, absolutely. We have
and
some
National Guard stuff. They're probably amazing guys that way.
We have
gals.
some guys on our department that are reservists and things like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, it just shows you the character of that. I love that. I think there's something special to be said for volunteer firefighters. There's something really cool about that. What kind of training do they give you?
So at the very beginning, when you get offered a spot on the department, You come in with zero training and they give you that bunker gear and they say, if there's a structure fire, be prepared. But
Wow.
obviously, we're not going to send a brand new person in all by themselves. Like, that just never happens. A brand new person will go with a very experienced person just to make sure that they are safe, right? But the best way to learn something is through experience. So that's something that we value and look forward to doing. But we also supply a lot of training. We have different agencies and organizations come out to teach trainings. Utah Fire and Rescue Academy, or also known as UFRA, they're based out of Utah Valley University. They'll come out and teach classes for us to get us certified as firefighters.
How many hours a month are you doing as a volunteer fireman too?
It used to be a lot more for me. I've kind of had to take a small step back because of everything that was going on. It was taking a lot of time away from my family, and that wasn't great for my wife. So I've kind of stepped back in the volunteer world a little bit, but still do my best to show up when I can. But it all depends on the call volume that we get. Like, I've since sitting here 11 minutes ago, we had a fire page go out. And then this morning we had another fire page go out. I haven't been going to any of them because I had back surgery 2 weeks ago.
Right.
So I've kind of just been taking it easy for a little while. But yeah, so I haven't been responding to anything as of recently.
Yeah. Well, tell me more about one thing I love that I think is always important in this climate. And let me just talk to you a little bit about what we've been through these past few years. You were one thing that folks don't know about us is that you used to be my secretary in what we call the Elders Quorum, and I was the Elders Quorum president for a while. And you were a huge help during COVID-19 and all the circumstances we were facing back then. So these past few years, it's been a roller coaster, right? We could say that it's been a roller coaster. Inflation, all the crazy things that have happened. I mean, how do you keep perspective in these times when things have been crazy like that? What have you learned in these past few years that you could share?
I think the biggest thing is knowing what your why is. I think that's how you keep your best perspective, is to know what
I just talked about that yesterday.
Yeah. I think if you don't have a why, then what are you doing? Like, you have no reason to do anything. Your why is your everything as to why you do what you do.
Mm-hmm. What's your why, Cameron?
My why is the wife and the kids that I have upstairs right now. Like, if I don't do the things that I'm doing, then I'm not supporting them. If I don't go to work and get my paychecks, then I can't support my kids at school. I can't support my wife in being able to be a stay-at-home mom. I don't want anybody else raising my children. I want her to be able to do it. And in this market, I'm sure everyone knows, it is not easy to be on a single income. Like,
yes, it is. It's true.
Not many people can do it, and I've been fortunate enough to be able to keep my wife home, and that's been great. It's been hard.
She's not working right now, huh?
No, she's not.
That's awesome.
She's a stay-at-home mom.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
and you have a couple of young kids, dude, don't you? You're a younger dad. How old are your kids?
All under the age of 10. I have an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 1-year-old. So we've got a busy household, and like I said, I don't want really anyone else but my wife to raise them for me.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of that's how I grew up, and that's just how I want my kids to grow up, is knowing that their mom is always there to be with them. Obviously, that puts more on me to go to work, and that's why I do so much. That's why I'm a full-time fireman. That's why I do mortgage loans. That's why I trim trees. That's why, you see this in the back LM Jigsaw there. I used to try to be a streamer with like video games and stuff.
Yep.
That just didn't really go anywhere. Sometimes I'll still pull it up, but
did you get much of a following when you were doing it, or?
Yeah, it was not bad. I was, if you wanted like $100 every couple months or something. So but I was just playing video games. Like, that was just my downtime. It was how I kind of refreshed myself at the end of the day and everything like that. And
I think you could go viral at some point.
How can you complain about earning a little bit of money just playing a video game? Sounds awesome.
Well, it's amazing the story that you have, and how much more time you got. I think we're getting to probably the end here, but
yeah, I'm good.
So a few more questions for you. I mean, what
Sure.
has been, I mean, in just these past few years, what has been the most rewarding thing you've gotten to be part of, and just in the community as a volunteer fireman, anything like that that's come to mind that just really kind of blows you away and about this wonderful community we have? Were you part of that whole situation when the truck went down the street? And
Yeah. Yep. I was a
tell me more
responder
about
for
that.
Yeah, that was a wild incident for sure. You can find a lot of those news articles through KSL, KUTV, all that kind of stuff. Um, that that was just nuts. I was actually at my full-time department for the Army Depot when that one came out. So we were called from Twila City. They called Twila Army Depot to come help. But not only did they call Twila Army Depot, they called Stockton, they called Grantsville, they called North Twila, they called Unified Fire out of Magna, they called Dugway to come in because there was just so much going on. We have this big 18-wheeler truck hauler, probably well over
Coming from a
70,000
sand pit,
pounds,
going down south,
coming
and it
down from
and it
south
hit
to
like
north.
30, 40 cars.
Yep,
Some
it was like
crazy number. Yeah.
around that, like somewhere in the 30s, I believe the car was, and over $1 million worth of damage. Something happened with the brakes that they ended up just plowing
It went like
like
3 or 4 miles down the road too,
3 miles down the
And if
road.
you
Just
look at our
hitting hard.
community, it was all
Crazy.
the way down Main Street, and
Yep.
but the guy, what he did, he was a hero. He kind of swerved around
Yeah, he did a
to
great
avoid
job.
things, and it wasn't his fault. He wasn't even impaired. But then he saw the little car dealership, if you know our area in Twilla, just came around the corner and hit it, and
Right.
crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable with that many vehicles and that much damage. 2 people, I believe, had to be life flighted to the hospital, but
So
no
what was
no loss of
your
life.
involvement? What did you get involved in that?
We were called to help put out the fire that started at the dealership.
So you were there doing that. Wow.
Yep, we were there doing
It
fire
looked like a
suppression.
war zone. Looked like a war zone, man. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was nuts. Yeah, it was really crazy.
But what did you learn about the community when they came together that day? It was a truly, I have to say, I saw the best of our community that day.
For sure.
What was your take on it?
So,
What'd
like
you
I was
see
saying,
in the midst of all that?
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, with like just the attitudes of our firefighters that come and drop everything they do, so does our whole community. They rally around tragedies and incidents in a way that is kind of unexpected. They just uplift each other in times that need to be uplifted. Like we've had two really bad tragedies up at the reservoir within the last year.
Yes,
And those have been terrible. But the people, the community just rallies around those individuals and the families that are affected and lift them up out of the grief that they're in. You know, it's amazing. Like it's still it's not a big city, but it's not a small city either. So the fact that a city our size can still rally around each other like that, it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, and one thing I want to share about this, and this is why I love that you're talking in this way, because the human element of everything we do is the key to our success in our careers and in our life. And so here's why this is why I love having you on today. And I think we'll have you back again. It would be fun to have you back and again sometime. But you've done a great job of sharing some of the amazing things we've seen in our little city. You know, in our own little neck of the woods, it's been kind of fun to see. And but yesterday I was on something called Recruiter Therapy. It's put out by Hire Easy, and there was a conversation for a bunch of recruiters who have been displaced because of and recruiters. We are in the human business. This is what we do every day.
Right.
It's the HR side of things, but you know, even from that business perspective, I've seen how recruiters have rallied around each other. In the last year, I don't know if you've seen the news, Cameron, but a lot of recruiters were displaced because of tech companies laying off, and the tech companies got hit pretty hard. They overhired, but the humanity of the recruiting profession, recruiters rallying around each other, and I've been the benefactor of that. It's just great to hear what you're saying, because it goes to show, regardless of where you are in your career, the one most important thing that you've talked about today, which drives the point home so vividly, is the human element of everything we do. Like, there are so many people that we touch on any given day. We have lives of amazing people that we're invested in. And if you lose sight of the human element of what you're doing, you lose kind of sight of your why that you were talking
Yeah,
about, you know,
absolutely.
because it's
Absolutely.
easy to get stuck in that. And, but again, I love what you're talking about, coming back to your why. And, I think you served a mission, didn't you?
I did.
Where'd you go?
Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah. So
Yep.
that was part of your why too. What did you learn from that experience, and what was that like?
Yeah, my mission taught me to kind of be personable, to be humble, to not be judgmental. Before my mission, I was a very judgmental little kid, which is kind of embarrassing to say. Um, but being out and about and knowing more about how the world works from being out on my own, because like I said, I was raised in a household where my mom was home all the time. You could probably say I was sheltered, but then getting out on my own and learning all those good traits of being able to talk to people. I mean, that was the biggest thing, is like, if you can talk to people, you can be successful.
Hmm.
You can drive your own success if you know how to talk to people.
Yeah, and I think that's, based on our conversation, that's the beauty of what we've been talking about. And I'm so grateful you came on today to share some of these tips. And I'll tag you so you can share this where you'd like.
Sure.
Um, so, but what a great conversation we had. I mean, just seeing the power of our community, seeing the things that have happened these last few years, um, it's been remarkable. So I
Yeah.
remember, I'll share this
Great.
story. I will remember when I went to West Valley College in the Bay Area, and I got my San Jose State gear on today. But you know, when I was going to West Valley College as my first couple of years in a junior college, that's when 9/11 hit. Okay, so I'm kind of giving away my age here a little bit. But the the pilot on the plane was an alumnus of SJSU. His name was Eric Dahl, and the one of my um, peer students, um, one of the folks that went to my college, her name was Nicole Miller, and they were both on Flight 93. So the the story of Flight 93 is a truly remarkable one. If you remember, they were the ones who were in the final plane. All the other planes had hit their targets. One had hit the Pentagon. The other two had hit the World Trade Centers.
Mm-hmm.
The final plane was piloted by Eric Dahl, and Nicole Miller was on that same plane. But these were the people that rushed the cockpit.
Right.
And their heroism that day reminds me of this human element of what we do. So from the standpoint of living our lives, doing the best we can, it's always going to be that way. We have to keep thinking that way. And those two were heroes that day. But I remember how my community came together at the college to honor Nicole Miller. And I remember how that there's still, you could go to West Valley College today in Saratoga in California, and
Mm-hmm.
you'll still see the plaque that was there for her that honors her. A few years ago, my family and I went to the 9/11 Memorial Museum, and I just remember walking in there and feeling reverence for those people. And it just reminded me of how precious our lives are. And
Right.
we only have one life to give, we only have one life to live. And everything we do should have an impact that's positive and brings humanity, elevates humanity, right? So
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that's what you reminded me of as you were talking about what happened here in Tooele. Um,
Thank you.
on a smaller scale to some degree. Nobody
Yeah.
was killed
Absolutely.
that day, but the community just rallied around all the folks that had been, hit with that. And it
Yep.
just reminded me that you could have something that could happen out of the blue that just is so you would never expect it to happen, right?
Right.
That was just
Absolutely.
a freak accident.
Yeah.
And it
Crazy.
affected so many lives, probably at least 500 to 1,000 lives that day. Just crazy how one incident, one thing did that.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big testament to what our actions can do, right? I
Yeah.
mean, obviously things went wrong with this truck and stuff like that, and I don't know the full effect as to what happened or who was at fault or whatever. I wasn't privy to that information, but yeah, like small little actions can add up to really big consequences and things that can happen for sure.
Is there anything you want to close on? I mean, we've had a great conversation today.
I don't think so. I guess the only thing I would say, like, is if you're looking for help in the mortgage world, whether you're wanting to get involved in the mortgage world or you need a mortgage yourself or refinance, go ahead and reach out to me. You can find me on all socials at just Cameron Colovich or Colovich Mortgage Loans, I believe is one of my handles somewhere out there. But also, I'll share my phone number too because that's just the way I get business is through friends and family referrals, stuff like that. Give me a call at 480-369-1811 and I'll be happy to have a conversation with you and see if we can get you into a home or help you out with some debt, whatever it may be.
Well, it was great advice today. I think my listeners will enjoy just the advice you gave and just some of the tidbits and knowledge that you shared. Thanks for coming on. Where's Your Next? You were a last minute guest, but I do want to say thank you. You've been one I've been wanting to get on for a while, and you just filled in the time. You did a great job. Really great advice, great humanity, great everything. And hey, thanks for serving our community how you do, man. I know it's not an easy thing, but
I love it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it. So
yeah.
And I think that stands for everybody on our little volunteer department here in Twila City. So if we didn't love it, we wouldn't do it.
Well, shout out to them. They're awesome. And so are the police and our community here. They're amazing.
Responders are great. I love everything about it.
We have to give them kudos for that. Well,
yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on. And for everybody else, thanks for coming on. Where's Your Next?